Two reasons why I wanted to make this video. One is to talk about whether Denver defense is the greatest defense in playoff history. And secondly, to just eat a little bit more crow. I kind of hate the Broncos, and I certainly didn't believe in them. Don't like John Elway, don't like Peyton Manning, didn't believe in Kubiak, didn't believe in Wade Phillips. It's really hard for someone to be more wrong than I was about the Super Bowl. So I really, it was driving me to create this video, which I didn't need to do because I already said all this in the Super Bowl coverage, at least this portion of it, but I wanted to double down on it and give them more credit. Broncos overall, what a game, what a run through the playoffs. They were #1 defense, even though they were already great defenses in the league. The Seahawks defense, the Arizona defense, the Carolina defense, they were still #1 and they were still disrespected. No one believed that they were going to win the game, and I didn't know a lot of people who thought Denver's defense was even better than the Panthers' defense, and it turns out they most certainly were. John Elway, what balls it took to fire John Fox with a huge winning record, had gotten them all the way to the end in the Super Bowl. He brings in Gary Kubiak, who really was not proven in terms of being a winner himself, but apparently Elway made the right decision. Kubiak had a great game, coached the hell out of that Super Bowl, seemed to switch up his defenses in a way that the Panthers couldn't adjust to. And then that leads us to Wade Phillips. I mean, how many times have I said, and now granted it was as a coach overall and not the defensive coordinator, that Wade Phillips is a loser. And yes, he was bad as a coach, but as a defensive coordinator, brilliant. And what a great job he did in that game and again in the whole run. I want to come back to that in 1 second. But the Denver defense, look, were they as good as the '85 Bears? Were they as good as the Ravens defense that won the Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer? Or even the Bucs defense that won the Super Bowl with Brad Johnson? I'm not sure they were that good over the stretch of the whole season, although there's obviously a good case to be made given that they were #1 in a year full of great defenses. But in the playoff run, talking about playoffs, man, they crushed the Patriots. The Patriots looked depressed. Tom Brady, biggest winner of all time, jittery. Did you see him in that pocket in the championship game? Like, oh, happy feet that Manning used to get. The Steelers are a very talented team. I know they were missing a lot of their top players, and the Patriots had injury issues too, but they steamrolled those really good teams. And then the Panthers were a phenomenal team. They were 15-1. They had crushed everyone in their path, including the Cardinals, who were a phenomenal team in their own right, and the Panthers mercilessly beat them. For the Broncos to turn around and do what they did to the Panthers and to overcome their offense. I'm just saying for the defense to overcome how terrible the Broncos' offense was. Manning threw for 141 yards, no touchdowns, had 1 interception, 1 fumble, only completed 13 passes. And the Broncos still easily won, despite having no offense to speak of. C.J. Anderson did a very good job in running the ball tough, but still, the defense had nothing to work with, and they were so overwhelming. Broke a record in number of sacks in a Super Bowl. And then Von Miller, has anyone had as good a defensive performance as he did in a Super Bowl? And when you put all this together, I think the only other team that actually competes with them in terms of a run through the playoffs defensively was the Giants when they beat the Patriots in their first matchup, when the Patriots were undefeated. That Giants defensive line is still unparalleled. But when you look at the whole defense and not just the defensive line, it's at maybe a tie. But if it's not a tie, then I give the edge to the Broncos. Yes, that Giants defense also almost single-handedly beat all those great teams in that year, including perhaps the best team that we've ever seen. I mean, they were undefeated. That Patriots team was monstrous. They didn't just beat those teams that year. They crushed all of them. And for the Giants defense to single-handedly defeat them was amazing. But Eli Manning was not as piss-poor as Peyton Manning was in this game. And Peyton Manning, to his credit, look, I've called him a choker his whole life. He didn't choke in this game. He didn't choke in the championship game. He did what he needed to do. But he's old. He was ineffective. And the Broncos still overcame that. So I wanted to add an exclamation point to the end of this season and give all those guys who I really dislike credit. John Elway, the Broncos organization, Kubiak, Wade Phillips, and that Broncos defense that was so monstrous And at this point, yes, historic. A job really well done.